everybody. Welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we're going to be talking about money. Woo, taboo subject, but we are going to talk about money, manifestation, and miracles with Meriflor Toneatto. And it isn't taboo, but don't we feel that way as women to talk about money as a taboo topic?
You know what, CJ? We do as women, but I actually laugh all the time because any of the workshops I've had that some men have come into, it's the same thing. It is, and I say in the book, it's really kind of tongue in cheek, is if you get invited for a dinner, for instance, and you're in a social situation, and you start asking people and your host, how much do you make? How much do you make? I
Yeah.
can almost guarantee that nobody's going to invite you back. And it just is still too personal.
Yeah.
We will talk about anything, our deepest fears, our sex lives. It's all over TV, but you're not going to talk about money in that depth.
Do you think that that's our Western culture, or do you think that that's true of all cultures?
I know it for the Western culture.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that I think it's the same because every time I go to Europe, for instance, if I'm in
Hmm.
England,
Hmm.
and even relatives in on my husband's side in Italy or Greece, nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. And
You
Chinese
know,
people don't talk about it. I know from my own culture.
yes.
What's your background?
It's Filipino is my background, but I did one of those DNAs, and apparently I'm all sorts of other things. But yes, my parents
Don't talk
definitely.
about money, right? It's like it's not
Not
an okay
really.
thing to
When I
do.
don't know about you growing up, CJ, but in our family, we didn't even really talk about money.
Yeah.
It was just like my parents had their all their files with money and so forth, and we didn't even really know. We would just ask if we needed something, and that was about it. And oh, how about you? Was that kind of the same thing?
Well, we are bargain hunters, so we talked about money in the form of saving money. I
Yes.
don't think even to this day I don't buy things unless it's on sale because there's no hurry for me to buy the latest fashions. I'll just wait
Yeah.
until 4 months
Yeah.
when everything is marked down to 50%.
Yes, yes, but
So that's the kind
it
of
is a
thing.
lot of fun though when
Yes,
something
it is.
you like is on sale. I mean, there's a shopping high out of that.
Yes,
That's
that's
for
true.
sure.
That's true. All right. So in your book, you talk about something that I literally could say, check, check, check. I've done every single one of these. Okay. So you have the kind of things that people, particularly, I know that I'm guilty of. I think other women and men, but I know a lot of women that I know are guilty of this. So undercharging, over delivering, having unclear or squishy boundaries, having trouble saying no for fear of not being liked or not being nice, asking for less when negotiating a business contract or salary, feeling anxious and fearful about having money conversations with whomever, family, clients, significant others, partners. I fit every single one of these things.
Yeah.
Um, so what's going on? What's wrong with me?
This is so interesting. First of all, there's nothing wrong with you. It's actually a female universal thing.
Hmm.
Because for us, when it comes to money, we do not see money in isolation.
Mm.
And we see money as a part of a web of relationships, of meaning, and of connections. And so for men see money in isolation. It's going to get them from point A to point B. It's a very
Hmm.
linear thing, but for us, everything is included with the emotions. So it's
Mm.
that's why I say in the book that money is emotional currency for women because
Mm.
it's so closely tied to our sense of self-worth, our self-confidence, feelings of do we deserve, feelings of safety and security, which is huge for women.
Hmm.
And especially security, because we have often heard or seen somebody who will stay in a relationship, in
Mm.
a job, in a career, no longer serving them,
Hmm.
but they
Mm.
are there. because security is big for them.
So I want to actually contrast. So I want to start off with the men's side. So you said that men sort of think about money as getting from point A to point B. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
transactional thing. It's like nothing
It's
personal.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
charges, the bus fare is 250. Get
yeah.
on or get off. It's not a big deal. That's a stated price.
That's right. It's
So,
it's a tool. They really understand it as a tool, more than we do as
okay.
women.
As a tool to do what? I'm trying to figure out how I can shift my mind to be more
Yeah.
masculine.
Well, and it's really a tool for it could be for anything that they need it for.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's going to the store and buying something, or a bigger thing like buying a house. They
Mm-hmm.
see that in isolation. Whereas for us, when we
Mm-hmm.
go shopping, and we're thinking, oh, should I get this? This would be so good if I got this for my son or my
Mm-hmm.
daughter. Oh yeah, my friend would really like this. I have had friends I've seen them, and over coffee, and they'll pull out something. Oh, I went shopping and I saw this and it reminded me of you, and I wanted to give it to you. And that's how we are. There's this
Okay, I
beautiful
love your friends. Tell me what your friends are all about. I need more friends. Now I feel like I've actually have a friendship issue as well. Why aren't my friend not downloading gifts to me? What is going on?
God, you are so funny, CJ.
Okay, so you said that for women, we think about it in a relationship way. So your friend is giving you this wonderful
Yeah,
thing that she thought of. So what is
yeah.
money to her in that case? How is that? How's the gift that she gave you a reflection of how she thinks about money and relationships?
Well, she thinks of it in terms of generosity,
Uh,
in terms of love,
uh,
and actually in its highest aspect, money is really a form of love. We
mm,
use it to take care of ourselves. We can use it to take care of others.
mm,
Charitable giving and philanthropy, that's really what it is. Um,
yes.
it is a form of love. And one of the things that I really love about, even though as women we have this very, complicated relationship with money, what I do love about that is that when women are empowered with money, they become difference makers.
Mm,
And they're not only going to change their lives for the better, but they're going to do so for their families, and they're going to pay forward their own successes to their communities at large.
mm-hmm,
And on average, women reinvest 90 cents of every dollar that they make back to family, to health, to education, and to nutrition.
mm,
And that's even the case in developing nations.
mm,
And so I just really find that so heartwarming in that, um, the more that we could have, and as we elevate the quality of our relationships with money and ourselves, really, the more that we as women will be able to really make a stand in terms of helping in social issues, social causes, and just generally pay forward successes. So
mm.
there's generosity of abundance, if you will,
Mm.
in on the planet.
Do you think that that's not true of men? I mean, what's the stated number for men? So if women spend 90 cents on the dollar or 90% of it giving back
Mhm.
to family or nutrition or, it's basically all the different ways of showing love.
Yeah.
Don't men spend it in the same way? I mean, don't we spend it on these same things, family and
Yes.
ourselves? Or is it
Yeah.
different?
It does get there to a certain point, but one of the things that's really interesting, that is our first default as women. It may not necessarily be that for men.
Ah, okay.
And
Oh,
what's
that's interesting.
what
So that's kind of where we naturally gravitate to.
yeah, we naturally gravitate to, because of the fact that we're nurturers, we're
Ah,
caregivers,
I see.
and I speak to a lot of men as well on different interviews and so forth. And one of the joyous things that I hear is that this is so true. They understand this of themselves. And the other thing is that they love the principles that's also in the book, even though it's for women, for this particular call to action to empower women. They love it because they find value in reading it as well. So
Mm.
that's one of the things that I really, really
It's a
enjoy
book for both
hearing.
because it's about kind of
Yeah.
prosperity. So, going back, you have to the thing that you mentioned. So you have 8 principles in the book. Can you do
Yeah.
kind of a high level summary of what some of these concepts are? So the first one is
Yeah.
clarity leads to alignment.
Yes. So, Claire, so first of all, when we're talking in the book about the fact that there's all these inner conflicts that women have about money. And so these 8 principles are holistic in that they are looking at abundance and prosperity, not just from the financial money aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but they're
Mm,
looking at it from the holistic. Everything is interrelated, interconnected in our lives.
mm,
And looking at prosperity and abundance in your relationships, in your environment, in your career, all of that. We could have all of that as well. And there's a greater harmony when that happens.
mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was holistic because everything is has to kind of flow nicely, doesn't it? It isn't just one thing all the time. And so clarity leads to alignment. That whole principle is about the fact that when we're very clear on who we are, we understand our natural strengths. We are very much respectful of our self-worth and our value. We understand our purpose. What is our mission? What are we here for?
Mm-hmm.
When that clarity, that there's alignment that starts to happen in that it sets you on a path to discover and uncover your true wealth, which is
Mm.
really your, really, really understanding your true worth and your wealth in
Right. So it's
all
not just
areas.
about the dollar signs next to it. If I have a clarity with who I am and the skills that I bring and all the talents that I have, then what I can do is bring all of those and feel more abundance, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, physically, nutritionally, whatever. It's a certain
Yeah,
kind of clarity with who I am and what I'm worth. Then
yeah,
that's the idea of clarity leads to alignment. So once I'm clear with who I am, then I can align. Is it the alignment that I can then align with those things, or life naturally aligns to me?
it's both because we're on the path. It becomes this kind of a spiritual thing where you'll start to find that when you are, it's for your highest good, and there's a goal in
Mm-hmm.
mind that you are
Mm-hmm.
trying to fulfill in your life. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to start to see that when you're on that right path, the right people come to you,
Mm-hmm.
resources, all of a sudden opportunities. You get
Mm-hmm.
introduced to somebody that, all sorts of things can happen. And that's happened so much in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's yours as well,
Mm-hmm.
because you're also on the spiritual path journey of
Right.
life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, for example, I'll use an example, a recent example for me is I got back from vacation and I thought, oh, I don't really have anything going on. Like I usually do group coaching, and it's like I don't have anything on the docket for like the whole summer. And I thought, well, what to do? And I thought, I'll just pray. So I just sat down and I thought, okay, my only wish is to bring something that has fun, meaning, and freedom for me. So please bring me, if I have a choice, group workshops where I'll feel fun, meaning, fulfillment. And then I started thinking, and money, because I wasn't asking to get, like,
yeah.
I was thinking, so I started getting a whole bunch of nonprofit gigs, and I was like, and he paid more money. Like, he paid serious money. So I left that out. But then what happened is actually over the last week, things have just appeared literally out of the ethers. And it just seems shocking to me that this has happened so many times in my life. But it is, if you're really clear with what you need, and if it's in alignment, like it is in alignment with what is of the highest path for me to do of my skills, things will flow. So that's principle one. Principle
Mhm.
two, your mindset matters. What's that about?
Well, your mindset matters most because of the fact I actually say, I mean, it's so significant, our mindset, because everything starts from there. I call mindset the prelude to action
Mm-hmm.
because, and in terms of really the significance of it, I love the quote by Henry Ford that whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And, that just kind of sums it up in
Right.
that it is such an important aspect from the scarcity mindset or the abundant wealth consciousness mindset. And our universe mirrors all of that, of what we're feeling and believing, and that energy that brings anyways. And what you're going to focus on is going to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So, so the beliefs and the mindset that needs to be shifted, are especially around money, that could be really disempowering for people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of us have grown up, and there's been something that's been a belief that hasn't really worked for us, but it was somehow passed down family to family, and it sometimes is just some people will follow it. Like, for instance, there's this one woman who has this really incredible story where she told me that she has two older brothers, and when she was growing up, her father would give them allowance every week, but
Mm-hmm.
because she was a girl, she would get less. And so when she asked why, he said, "Don't worry, your brothers have to provide for their family. Somebody else is going to provide for you."
Wow.
And I mean, now that she thought about it, all
Mm.
those years she under earned. All
Mm.
those years she under earned until she was ready to release that disempowering belief.
Mm. Right. So you're a woman, so you're going to get paid less. You're a woman,
Yeah,
therefore someone will take care of you. Those are kind of some, and I
yeah,
think that that's pretty like for my Asian, sadly for me, for my Asian background, it's like, well, your brother will amount to something, but you just hope you get married well and, study. You could go down that path, but do you really want to work that hard is kind of the message that I
yeah.
received about like women, the worth of women and my culture. So it's interesting that these mindsets. What are some of the ones that are the most? Because you mentioned this several times already that there are certain mindsets or beliefs that we have about ourselves that influence. You just gave an example of the gal that you're coaching. Are there ones that are very common that you come across with all the time?
Well, some common beliefs are you really, really, really have to work very hard to make good money, to make great.
Yes, I have that one. Work
Well,
hard to make money.
yeah, I had that actually when I was in corporate. I was just almost completely flat out,
Hmm.
because that's what my belief system was, right?
Right.
And then, with this whole, but now my belief system is that you can have such abundant, make great money, and fulfill your purpose and be of service, and do it with grace and ease.
Hmm.
And I worked at that mindset because it's like building a muscle, right? When you have been
Mm.
so used to the environment within ourselves where we
Hmm.
think that that's the case. So that's a big one. Everybody
Right.
thinks
And so
it's
your
that.
mantra is I would like make money with grace and ease. I love that as kind of a shift in mindset. And how did you change that mindset from I have to work hard in order to make good money? And that's actually, I think almost everyone, man and woman, and corporations, particularly I can say with my Asian background, hard work is a really strong value that was
Oh
just
yeah.
drilled into my brain. And sadly, I think I'm drilling it into my children's brains. But how did you overcome that limiting
Well,
belief?
really, for me, I had to find a better way because I was burnt out.
Hmm.
And I actually had to take some time off work because I was just go, go, go. It was like a West Wing situation, always, putting out fires and so forth. And you can only do that for so long on that
Yeah.
kind of adrenaline. And I just wasn't happy anymore.
Mm.
And
Tell
so
me where were you working in corporate, and tell me the work that you're doing.
I I was an executive in public service, actually
Hmm.
here in Canada,
Hmm.
and I was in quite had large teams and divisions and all of that. And so I had two Blackberries at one point and two assistants that would follow me. One would follow me because she had my schedule, and one did everything else. But and then there was this thing where a couple of days, they like my whole schedule was completely booked, CJ. And I said, and when do you think I would have time to eat? And then so they were looking at it, And then I was just, but it was so funny because the warning signs was there 5 years before.
Mm.
I was so busy. I was so busy, and I was like, a lot of, for me, a lot of drive around being of service, creating a social impact. And we were doing some
Mm.
incredible programs, like the very first legislation for people with disabilities in Canada. I
Oh,
was part of
wow.
that. Things
Mm-hmm.
like that, really big things, human
Right.
rights, immigration. But and then after a while, I started to think, you know what, this I'm feeling this inner restlessness that I have avoided to try and figure out what that is.
Mm.
And we get these things that happen where we know our intuition, we know, especially as women, our intuition is actually really strong, but I didn't want to pay attention to it. And then life gives you those little signals and little signs, and if you don't pay attention, but you're on the wrong path and it's now time to get on the right path, you are going to get whacked on the side of the head with something.
Were you whacked? Did you get whacked?
Oh yeah, I really completely burnt out. I actually almost fainted one day because I was just
Oh
so
no.
exhausted.
Oh no.
Then so this was funny. I'm recuperating at home, and you have a lot of time to think when you're just laying down, right?
No.
And then the next one morning, I literally bolted out of bed and I looked up and I said, I think I'm going to quit today. So, I mean, so that like huge 15-year career was like a 5-minute phone call. I say
Wow.
that. Uh, but at the same time, it just all of a sudden felt so right and it felt so clear. And I was already certified. I was already a professional coach because I had trained all those years, anyways. And I always had very early in my 20s, I was a young single mother living from paycheck to paycheck. And
Mm.
I left a very challenging marriage. And I was very, very nervous about money. And even though I had a lot of support, I knew, I had to build us a good life and I had to build a
Yeah.
bright future. And I remember making a promise to myself that if I was ever in a position to be able to help women and empower women, especially when it comes to money, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how that was going to be, but I would do it.
Mm.
And then I remember when I started as an entrepreneur and I started working a lot with women, these conversations around money kept coming up. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wasn't the only one having all of these
Mm.
self-doubt conversations with myself. And then I started to create programs around that for women and to really help them. But then it started to grow in terms of more women, more women. And then
Mm.
the age was getting younger in the
Wow, that's interesting.
in the 20s and even 17s, 17,
Wow.
yes, because some of my clients would say, oh, my daughter's really interested in this. So I thought, oh my goodness, I remember making that pledge, that promise years ago. And
Mm.
and then I thought, you know what, it's time to write the book. And because the universe is as abundant and everything is in perfect timing, this book could have come out last year, actually,
Mm-hmm.
but it came out at a time when there is this huge uprising in the world on women's empowerment, and it's the perfect time.
It is
It's
perfectly
perfect.
timed.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow. What
yeah,
talk about alignment?
yeah,
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 where women are trying to get empowered, and one of the areas where we are disempowered is that we don't make we don't make as much money as men, and we don't even complain about it oftentimes, or we
yeah,
don't even know that we are making less money. Um,
yeah.
so, so you mentioned that yours was really working hard, and I love. Thank you for sharing your story. It's a great story, and beautiful that now you're on path. Like you got clear that moment, your wake up call when you're in bed. I just love how you're like, I'm going to quit.
No,
That's
it
just
was like this,
hilarious.
CJ. It was like this, laying down. Boom. Oh, I think I'm gonna quit today. Like, but the funny thing was, this is the hilarious thing about it was that I must have rehearsed that resignation letter so much in my head because it came and maybe like I wrote it, I think, in 2 minutes
Wow.
because it was of thanking all the people, all of that. But it was just, I had, and it was that was the wake up call. And some people get the wake up call, they don't recognize it's a wake up call, and they go back and do it again, and then
Right.
something else happens,
Yeah,
and
they
that
get
prevents
sick
them.
or yeah, some
Yeah.
yeah, I got my whack on the head when my dad died. So, and it took me 2 years before I kind of did anything. So, I did not get I was asleep for 2 years. So I get it. So what are some of the other ones? Really working hard to make good money. What are some other ones that you've heard?
Oh yeah, things like uh, money is the root of all evil. That's a
Okay.
lot. Yeah, that's
Money
a
is
lot.
the root of all evil. Okay, that's not
Yeah,
helpful if you're trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
attract money.
yeah. And that's usually I think that's a generational thing, because a lot of parents will say that, to kids, or that's just
No.
kind of their belief that somehow a person who is wealthy is a person who is of not good character. That
Wow.
it could be that way. I know of some people who have thought of that.
Yeah.
And yet, if you think about it, some of the wealthiest people are using it for the highest good as well, right?
Yeah.
And really, this is the whole point of that, is that the more you make, the more you can help others
Mm-hmm.
and transform lives. I mean, look
Mm.
at the level of Bill Gates, of Oprah, and so many other wonderful people.
Mm-hmm.
They're really using their platform in the this it's actually that's when money becomes really a spiritual
Yeah.
expression.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
Elon Musk, I think, is just doing
Oh yeah.
beautiful things. So, okay,
Yeah.
what's another common one? Money is the root of all evil. Really work hard to make good money. What are some other ones you
Yes.
hear?
The other one is money doesn't grow on trees.
Okay.
So yeah, money doesn't grow on trees. So that's also part of you gotta make something of yourself, and you've got to have the real drive, because nobody
Oh, okay.
nobody's going to be there to help you.
Oh, you're all alone. It's out you and your
Yeah, money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah, so that's another
Yeah,
one.
you get pick up your bootstraps and get
Yeah,
going. Work
yeah,
your
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of an akin to the work your tail off kind of scenario.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
understand that from the point of view of, we always want to instill a lot of discipline, and
Right.
with our children, and we want them to really be great citizens and contributing. But when you equate that to money on top of it, I think it just creates this other layer of belief and emotion that sometimes will want people to run away from it, you
Yeah, well,
know?
it gives you a lot of
Yeah.
guilt and shame. If I'm not working at this moment to do something for my business, I must be a bad person because money doesn't grow on trees. Like that's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
whatever.
Exactly, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I get so you work with women entrepreneurs who come in wanting to do these, businesses but have these fundamental beliefs about money and that those beliefs are the ones that and one of the things that I have okay, so here's the one that I've heard several times, both from men and
yeah,
women, and that's the hardest thing is that you reach a size in your business that you can
yeah,
either go big or go home, right? The
yeah,
idea of there, so I have a friend who's in a manufacturing business. She's in a business where she's doing a lot of like small run, things, which she
yeah,
doesn't make a lot of money because you have to scale in order to actually make money on these items that she's making, clothing items. And so she's trying to decide whether she invests on a large lot, right, which is lots of money to get a large lot of things because you don't know
yeah,
if you can sell them and you don't necessarily have an imminent buyer, but yet at the same time, there's this kind of I either have to go big or go home. There's always this point in which we have to make a big leap of faith.
yeah,
What are your thoughts about that? Because I've heard several women who just hit a point and then they hit well, I'll just go home. I'm not
yeah,
going to go big. Or I've had friends who have gone big and they made the wrong investment and then they're saddled with a lot of debt afterwards after they went
yeah.
big. What are your thoughts about that? Because that's particularly for women entrepreneurs is a big issue, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you're absolutely right. There is a point in time. Yeah, it's both business savvy and really understanding where you are in the market. Like, what is the trend? For you to go this big, um, there has to be the interest in the market for you to go that big to begin with, right?
Right.
And so there's that, and then there's the how you view your relationship with money, and you're not even consciously thinking of it at the time. What usually will come up for women at that point in time: who am I to think that I can even do this? Like, you know, do I deserve this? Do I, what if I fail? All these other scenarios come up, right? And depending on the mental toughness, I would have to say, and the way of the real conviction within herself that this is what she's meant to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many factors to answer that question specifically, right? There's so
Right.
many factors. What is very true, though, is that in the tech industry, for instance, a Kauffman Foundation did a study, and they found that women will, if they have anything to do with tech, they will try and bootstrap that investment from their savings and not go to VCs, not even go to angel investors, because the conversation around money scares them. Doesn't There's not enough role models in the tech industry
Um,
around women, and it's still a very much of a male dominated industry. So that's
that's
what,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, that's what can help them go the other way too, right?
Right.
And
Is
then,
to go out and ask for a loan or go get money.
yeah,
But then if
yeah,
they're in, because, and actually the thing that you've mentioned, I've heard that over and over again where people are like, I drew from my personal savings, my
oh yeah,
401k, all these things in order to, I believed in my business so much so that I would personally invest. But I guess in some ways, going for a VC makes sense for the tech world. But in her world, she's not a tech person.
yeah,
So it's to
yeah.
go get a loan from a bank. And I
Mhm.
guess if the bank doesn't give you a loan, it says something, right? Like,
Oh yeah, and she's the precursor of that anyway, CJ. She's already afraid that she's not going to get it.
right, if she goes into the bank and gets a
Yeah.
loan.
And then you have this, because for us, as women,
Hmm.
imagine talking about money is so emotional to begin with, but because you're asking for money,
Hmm.
it's already a reflection of, do you believe, bank, that I'm worth it?
Right. Or my idea is worth it. Why does it
Yeah.
have to be about
Yeah.
her? Because it could just be she's a
Yeah.
great person, but her
Yeah.
idea is not
Yeah.
viable.
Yeah, and so you see these different, like, it's still a big deal for us to be, if a woman is, for instance, I was on stage with the president of Bank of America, who's a woman. That's a big deal. Everybody's talking about that, right?
Right.
Because it's not expected almost.
Right. Right.
And and so for us, I think all of this, this book, and the kind of awareness that it's leading, and the conversations that people are having because of it, is so great, because we get to make decisions now
Right.
about how we want this to be.
Right.
Because one thing I know for sure is, once women get over this, in terms of, like, really elevating their sense of self-worth and their confidence and all of that, because many of these that privately struggle, by the way, they're already quite accomplished.
Right.
um, they have, I mean, on paper, I must have looked really amazing on paper, but inside, when I started to think I'm going to go in business for myself, I was really nervous too. I mean, I
Hmm.
thought, because I had also people saying to me, why would you go and do that when most people aren't going to get to the level you ever would, and that is the best security to have, is a paying job, right?
Right.
And but I just knew that, for me personally, I was just so untouched and aligned. I knew that there was something bigger. There was
Mm.
something more that I was
Mm.
supposed to be doing.
Okay, so
You know?
principle two is your mindset matters, and I think we've talked about principle three, which is heal your
Yeah.
emotions about money. Is it emotions, or did we talk about the emotions? Because it seems like there could be like about
Oh
guilt
yeah.
and
Yeah.
shame, and what are the other emotions about money?
So the big ones are fear.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a study, 2013 Women in Power study done in the US, and in households of 200,000 or more, women, many women there still identified with fearing that they may lose it all and may be a bag lady at one point in time.
Oh, I talk to so many clients that have that. They're like, I'm going to be a bad person. I'm like, what? Wait,
Yeah,
where did
because
that come from? But I think that there's just whenever we downslide just like that, even we kind of go into this place of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a homeless person on a street. It's
yeah,
like,
I mean that's extreme, but it is. People have those kinds of fears, you know.
right,
And I have a colleague and a friend who is very wealthy, very very wealthy by any standard, and she will say something to me, you know. When I was writing the book, she goes, "Are you going to say anything there about bag ladies?" Because then we had this conversation that I said, "I didn't ever even know that you thought that way." She goes, "I know, because her beginnings wasn't wealthy. She didn't
um, right,
right? So there's always this, if you look back, maybe it's all been a dream, right? So
right,
very interesting. So fear is huge, fear,
right. Okay,
losing it all. Then there is the guilt. Guilt is huge for women, especially around, we love to make sure that what we have, we'd like others to have as well. So
right.
if we have something that others don't, we almost feel bad about saying, "Oh, I got the promotion," or I got a pay
Oh,
raise," or
right.
because is it like, am I going to be showing off? Am
Oh,
I somebody doesn't have this, like, because we go to the extreme length of trying to have everybody
feel
feel,
comfortable. Yes.
yeah. Yeah, it is, right? It's
Uh,
the being liked and all of that, right? Am I nice? Am I being liked? Then there is the shame. Now,
mhm.
shame is deep. It's very, very deep because it gets to the core of whether you think you are lovable as a person, as
Mm,
as Brene Brown would say.
mhm.
And that one is, if something has gone wrong, you've lost it all, you risked something in a business thing, you may be close to bankruptcy. The shame of walking around with that is heavy on people. Very, very heavy. I have worked
Mm,
with women who have ended up, almost losing everything and having to live in their cars because they
wow.
are, they're really wanting to get their business off the ground and so forth. And when it didn't go their way, and they spent many years with a lot of shame, even though it didn't
Mm,
show on the outside, but really on
mm,
the inside, they felt a lot of shame. And
mm,
I have people, it's in the book, by the way, but I have a lot of my clients do a forgiveness exercise
mm.
because there's so many people to forgive, especially
Right,
yourself.
right.
And I remember one woman saying that when she kept doing it because her shame for herself was very, very deep. And she said that when she finally kind of really got into that exercise and released a lot, she said she slept so well and she hadn't
Oh,
slept in a long time.
oh,
And so
sad.
shame is huge. And then there's anger
Right,
around
anger.
money. Anger around money. It may not even, this is weird, CJ, but this is true. It may not even be anger related to money specifically for themselves, but they're angry about somebody else who may they think had done them wrong about money.
Ah, okay, yes. A vengeful kind of like you did me
Yeah,
wrong. I'm gonna come get you.
yeah.
Okay.
So there's this thing. For instance, I had a client whose father did go bankrupt. Their family, they
Mm.
couldn't pay for her to go to school.
Uh,
So she had to take matters into her own hands, basically. The dad went into depression, and she
oh wow.
basically started to help support the family, kind of thing, and had to postpone her education. So, and the
Mm.
resentment of that was
Mm.
crazy.
Right.
And anything that she got, she hung on to it because
Right.
it she might not have anymore, right? So there was like a lot of anger, and she also had to do the forgiveness exercise for a different reason because she was angry at somebody else. But
Oh, I get it now. So if you think of money equals fear, guilt, shame, and anger, you're not in the money equals love. So you're kind of in that equation that is not super helpful.
Yes, and
Okay.
you're also out of alignment with abundance.
When you have these emotions.
Yeah, because that energy, imagine how much we know what that energy
Yeah,
when we
it lowers your vibrational energy.
completely, completely. So you cannot even be in the space to receive because
Mm,
you aren't even giving to yourself. How are
right.
we how are we expecting to for others to give to us when we don't even give to ourselves? Because
Uh,
for whatever reason, we're out of the prosperity, abundance, wealth, consciousness, and energy. We're not even in that space.
right.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. Okay. And then the next one is confidently expressing yourself. You've mentioned several times that we feel like I'm not worth it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing that I started off with, under earning, undercharging, over delivering, that is all I think a root cause is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily feeling like I'm worth it or
Yeah.
confident that I'm worth it. What's that
Yeah.
all about, the confidently expressing yourself?
So that is about how we sometimes do not understand or underestimate ourselves in that we our words have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
And what we say it over and over again, you begin to believe it. And then when you begin to believe it, you begin to act on it, and those are the results you're going to get. So confidently express yourself is about really paying attention to the words of wealth or the
Mm.
words of lack.
Okay.
People talking about I'm never going to get out of debt. Um, I can't make that kind of money. Uh, I'm not good with money. It seems like I have a love-hate relationship with money, right? That's a
Mm.
classic one. That is classic because if you have a love-hate relationship with money, imagine the push-pull energy that you are creating. You're basically in a stagnant energy. And
Mm.
so this is all about reframe. This is
Mm.
about
Right. Right,
frame.
because we're basically hypnotizing. My coach said to me once, she's like, stop saying that. Because when you're saying that, you're basically hypnotizing yourself over and over again
Yeah,
to
yeah,
firmly get into those beliefs. Like, why would you hypnotize yourself to do that?
yeah,
So
yeah.
reframing it to not necessarily believe some of those things that you just mentioned. Um,
Yes,
Got it. Okay, so
yeah,
that's confidently expressing, being careful with the words that you're choosing because
yeah,
they actually reflect kind of an inner state of scarcity, and changing the wording to just shift your energy to be in a more abundant state. Is that
yeah.
right?
So yes, exactly. And that could be a 10% shift, CJ.
Mm-hmm.
That could say you could make a commitment to yourself that I choose to stop saying the word can't.
Great.
I choose to stop saying that word because I'm noticing that my results aren't that great. So
Right.
what if instead of taking ourselves also so seriously, what if we had this little playful thing with the universe where we start experimenting?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I did when I started to raise my vibration. I started experimenting, looking forward to certain things, being in a space of gratitude. When I
Mm.
started to do that, it was almost instantaneous in that I started to even really feel good about myself. And that even just put me in a space to be open to seeing other possibilities,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Okay. Yeah. So that's basically the way that you kind of there are little shifts. Even you mentioned a financial gratitude journal,
Yeah.
but it's getting to, and I have a sense that that's your go-to place. Just having just the little time that I spent with you, you just seem like a happy, grateful. That's kind of your thing.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because right now I'm doing a master's in positive psychology
Okay.
actually, and coaching
And you're
psychology.
teaching a class, you're like, let me just teach you about how
Yeah,
I live my life.
so it's so funny because I was doing research on gratitude, scientific research on gratitude, and we've
Mm.
known for years that um, that it's good for you. Gratitude is
Mm-hmm.
good for you, and that it's really good for your health and your mental well-being. But now there is scientific proof that it what they call it broadens your happiness. It broadens your flourishing, and it actually increases your levels of physical health.
Wow, fascinating.
And so I loved it when I said, I knew it. I knew something was there,
Aha!
Yeah, so it was great.
Now
Yeah, it
you
was
just have to write an article and publish it and then be like, aha, got it.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, so we have a couple more. We'll see how many we can get through.
Okay.
Confident, create your lasting impact. What's that all about?
So this is about your purpose. This is about using money for the greater why. Why do you need the money? At a certain point, especially us as women, when we have what we need, our family has what we need. The rest, we're going to do something bigger with it. It's
Mm,
gravy, you know.
hmm
And that's really what ended up happening in my life. Once I had everything, um, it was about giving back. It was about paying forward my success. A lot of proceeds from this book is going to a lot of women's organizations, whether
Oh,
it be
cool.
Kiva, whether it be local or Empowering a Billion Women by 2020 with Ingrid Vandervelt, who wrote the foreword to the book,
Hmm
her foundation, giving, whatever that is. It's when you get to that state, it's really about what is this all for anyways? And
hmm
and when you're giving from that space and you're in alignment, it's incredible how much more is going to come back to you and you didn't even expect it. And it's
Mm.
just part of the universe saying you are part of the circle of the flow of abundance.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so that's your figuring out your purpose to figure out what your lasting impact is. And
Yeah.
then improve your money habits and actions.
So that happens on two levels. One is, and it all has to do with integrity,
Hmm
integrity with yourself and integrity with others when it comes to money.
hmm
So you have to really pay attention to how you are being and treating money and how you are with money with other people, because that's what's going to happen coming back to you, right? It's this,
Ah, okay. So if you're stingy with money to other people, people are going to be stingy to money for you. Ah, I see. Got
I
it.
mean, it's really so. And when I mean integrity with yourself, if you have made a commitment that let's say you borrowed money from family, and oh, it's just family, I've forgotten about it. That creates an energy for you to also for it to happen to you, not necessarily from that family member, but it will come back to you in
Right.
some
It's
way.
kind of a karmic
Right?
circle.
Yeah, it is a karmic circle.
So
And
just
so,
like the generosity gives this kind of karma,
yeah,
like a
yeah,
generosity will come back to you. If it's a circle, if you're stingy, that also will come back to you.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly
Mm,
it. And so we always, and we want to be really trustworthy with money because the universe will give us bigger amounts to be trustworthy with.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that idea. Okay, so we're only two more. Okay, can we fit one more into the last minute or two?
Yeah.
Empower your growth.
So that is about really being in an environment where you're going to be with people who are going to take you higher. You know,
Yes.
um, I think it was Jim Rohn that said you are the sum of all the five people that you most hang around with.
Yes.
And so you really, if you want to get to success, you've got to choose wisely who it is that you are with. Yeah.
Okay. And I can't believe we're covering all eight. Focus on achieving results. These are your eight principles in your book. Uh,
Yes. So this is all about really keeping your eyes on the prize. If there's some sort of financial goal that you are looking towards, or a broader goal in general that includes money, let's say it's your bigger mission, bigger project,
mhm.
really, declutter things from your life. Really focus on, what's my environment like? How am I going to stay accountable? Are these realistic? What are my timelines? It's really getting to the granular level,
Right. Like it's a real
practicality.
thing. It's
Yeah,
a real thing, not just like
it is.
I dream that I'll get this money. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
what's the game
yeah,
plan? When are you getting the money in? What's your
yeah,
interim goal?
yeah.
Love it. So we've been talking to Meriflor about Toneatto about her book, Money, Manifestation, and Miracles. How lovely to have you here. It was really
Oh,
fun.
thank you. Thank you so much, CJ. And thank you for all the beautiful work that you're putting out into the world.
Thank you. Oh, that's sweet. So I want to tell folks about the classes. And it seems like you're going through a lot of classes. There's stuff on your website. Tell us how they can reach you and
Yes,
some kind of upcoming events that they can
yes,
find out about. And of course, your book. Go buy the book.
yes. Yes, go buy the book. So just go to meriflor.co. That's
Okay.
meriflor.co.
Uh-huh.
Don't go to .com
Wait,
because
pan
that's,
up your book, would you?
yeah,
Would you?
yeah, yeah. I will. I will. Here
Okay, so
it
there's your name, M E
is.
R I F L O R.
Yeah, .co, and CJ and I match. You see, we
Yes, the
did this.
Moulash book.
And they can go there, and when they click on the book, there's a link there to the book. And after they purchase the book, please come back to that website because you can download a free audio, and it's called The Power of Gratitude.
Oh,
And you can
nice.
listen to it over and over again. There's 8 practices that I've used that has brought me a lot of abundance and my clients. So use it with joy. And also there, you're going to find some events where I'm going to be. There is a an entire video course that's coming out on the book.
Oh, fun.
Uh, yeah, for the people who are, they like reading the book, but they also want to see me teach them
Mm-hmm.
on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that's happening. I'm having various events and book signings and so forth. So just go to the
Just
events section.
go to the website and you
Yeah,
can find
yeah,
all of it.
yeah. Because yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.